Okay, so you guys probably know who this guy is. This is Patrick Bet David. He is the host of this show called Valuetainment. He seems to just kind of be like a businessman, CEO kind of guy. He doesn't seem to be like a Kyle Kulinski where it's like, oh, he's a political commentator. This guy, I think, is just about money, and so, which is fine. I mean, he just does whatever for money. Which is totally fine, by the way. You know what I mean? Do your thing, whatever. But he's more of a businessman than he is any specific sort of person or anything like that. You guys probably know him now because Sam Seder, David Pakman, and Secular Talk all appeared on his show. His own fans have turned on him because he posted this video titled, "This is Propaganda. Patrick Bet David blasts 4-day work week." So the 4-day work week is a new proposal that has been shown scientifically to prove to increase productivity of workers, right? So productivity obviously being, how much is being produced by workers. Some people may fallaciously think that, the more you work, the more productive you're going to be. That's actually false because of, marginal productivity of labor, right? So it's the economics thing. But I want you guys to watch part of this video. I'm going to show it to you. He says a bunch of BS. We're going to respond, and then we'll check out some of the responses.
This chart shows if you keep saving and investing and others don't, you don't separate incrementally in a way that you think. You separate exponentially. And by the way, the separation's going to get wider and wider and wider and wider. No matter how much you bash rich people, they're going to go wider because while you were kicking at wanting to work 3-4 days a week, they're doing 6 days a week because the Bible says take 1 day off. And a lot of people follow that guideline of just taking 1 day off. But everybody wants a 4-day work week. Don't be upset at the guy that's whooping your ass because he's working 6 days a week for 10 years and you work 4 days. Let's actually do the math.
Boom.
A guy works 6 days a week and only takes Sundays off, which is what I did. And it's till today, that's my philosophy, right? So a guy works 6 days and he takes 1 day off over a year span. What is it over a year? Over a year, you get 52 additional days a year, okay? Which is how many hours? Roughly 416 hours, because I'm doing 58 times 8. I think that's 416 hours, right? So that's 52 additional days you get per year. Do you realize within 6 years, within 7 years, you got 1 additional year?
Wow.
Within 10 years, you got years. Within 10 years, you got 520 additional days. You got 4,000 additional hours. Yeah, brother, we're not in the same league, homie.
Sorry.
We're not going to be competing in the same league. But let me give you the other part about this that's a problem. The other problem about this that's a problem. Who else is influencing this? Who else is influencing this? This can also only happen with the help of the government. The more money you print, the more money you put into the economy, you're thinking you're helping the low and middle income. You don't think the people at the top know who do. Like every time when they say, Jamie Dimon, they're going to put $2 trillion more into the economy. Jamie's like, hell yeah, because 40% of it's coming to Chase.
Yeah.
$800 billion is going to end up at whatever the number is going to be. In his mind, is like, that's great. Put $2 trillion. I'm going to get more on my balance sheet.
You're just going to print it and we'll end up
Do you really think these politicians that are sending money out to do this, you think they're sitting there saying, let's help the low and middle income? No. The money's going straight up to the top. We're going to show you a clip here in a minute. I'm going to get your feedback. But we're going to show you a clip here in a minute on what happened with Nancy Pelosi. You're going to be seeing what people are saying to him. How the hell did you get so rich? Because you got insider stuff and other people are going to jail having done 1/10 of the crime you and your husband have committed. You're seeing the protesting taking place. But the low wage, the separation, the disparity, all of that is you need to start thinking long-term and not joining the camp that's convincing you to work fewer hours. Is you need to figure out a way to be more competitive in a marketplace. When I talked to comedian Kevin Hart, he says, you'd be surprised how hard I had to work. I worked my ass off, okay? You talk to Rogan, how hard that freaking guy works. People think Joe became Joe because Joe is just this talented, funny, likable guy. And he is all of that. But I know a lot of talented, funny, likable guys that don't work hard. This guy was diligent, focused, doing what he's doing, and then all of a sudden gets a few $100 million talking about, I got a few money. That's what he said. That doesn't happen by luck. You think he didn't work his ass off doing the UFC show here, traveling here, over there, over this? You think that schedule is 4 days a week? The people you admire, younger Gen Z generation, the people you admire, that you read about, that you watch on the sports, that you watch in movies, that you watch in, politics or military, you read about the heroes, were not 4-day-a-week people. They did not follow that. The heroes you admire, didn't follow that strategy. That is purely a propaganda being sold by a bunch of people that went to universities that some professor told them to work 4 days a week. And they're coming out being, disciples of these prophets saying 4 days a week, not realizing they just ruined somebody's dreams by saying to work 4 days.
So this guy seems to be a pretty big shyster, actually, because he seems to, there's people who just say BS without trying to even provide any evidence for it. They don't even pretend like they have evidence for it. What this guy seems to do is he seems to prevent certain facts and statistics and then use it to back up some kind of irrelevant claim or super ambiguous claim. So I don't even know what he's trying to say in the beginning. You don't separate non-exponential incrementally if you were to invest a little bit of money. This doesn't say any of that. I don't even know where that, where did you get that from? And something really interesting I noticed just as I was recording this video is he cuts off the image for some reason. So I looked up the source of the study, obviously. It's the Congressional Budget Office. It's a long report they have on income inequality. And check out the actual title. Check out the title of the study, actually. You should go ahead and check this out right here. So it says income gains at the top dwarfs those of low and middle income households. And what he did is for some reason, he just decided to cut off the top part that says that. I wonder why that is. I'm curious to know what your guys' thoughts are. Why would he do that? But basically what this study is just saying is look, the income gains at the top are just way higher than the lower, income brackets. And so what you can see here, this figure says income gains widely shared in early post-war decades, but not since then. So you can see, look, that's crazy actually. Wow, that's actually bonkers. Whoa, look at how close all three of these, 95th percentile, the median, and the 20th percent, their income growth was so closely shared between 45 and really the 75. And you can see it starts to really deteriorate once Reagan takes office. Reagan really, I don't know if there's a specific causal thing, but it at least coincides with Reagan taking office. And remember that he slashes marginal tax rates, he reinstitutes stock buybacks, making them legal. He does crazy amounts of stuff. He robs Social Security to pay for his overseas wars. Supporting fascists, basically just armies, essentially killing machines. So this is essentially what people are wanting when they say, hey, 4-hour work week, all this kind of thing, income inequality. And this is the thing, right? So we had this great period of everyone is growing, and then you just see, oh shit, the top 1% is just going crazy, or in this case, I guess the top 5% is just going insane, right? Just going crazy in terms of growth. And so I don't really know what he's trying to prove here in terms of, is he trying to say that it's exponential growth? So what this guy does is he has an opinion, he presents some kind of statistic that doesn't actually lead you to the conclusion of his opinion, but he tries to present it as that. So the actual conclusion, and in the video he claims that he says that when the government the government money that they do, it's it increases the issue. It's not going to those kinds of people, right? It's going to the rich people. And what this actually says is that that's not true. It says transfers and taxes are progressive, but income is highly concentrated both before and after transfers and taxes. So basically what that means is it actually lowers wealth inequality and income inequality, not makes it higher. So he's just making shit up, basically, is what he's doing. He's just really making shit up. But this is a really big issue for him, obviously, because he keeps saying also that he's trying to also make this direct correlation or causation between working harder, longer hours, and getting more money or richer. But the two are not the same. That's very logically fallacious. Just because you put in the hard work doesn't mean that you're going to get huge. And I would argue that a minimum wage job, like a McDonald's job or any of that kind of stuff, is arguably just as hard, I would say, in terms of difficult as any other job. In fact, most of the time that people do go to school and do that kind of thing, it's so that they don't have to do such difficult work because it's just so hard, right? Because it's so difficult. You don't want to do that because it's just so difficult. And he gives a few examples of people who have worked really hard who have made it. But again, it's a logical fallacy, again, to use 3 examples. You're essentially what you're inducing through inductive logic. You're saying Joe Rogan worked hard and got popular. I forgot who else he mentions in there that, worked hard and got popular. And so he's trying to say, if you work hard, you will get big. That's not true. You're not going to get big. The amount of hours and time and work you put in are not going to be directly, corollary to, your income or anything like that. And there would be no way for everybody to be rich. There's always going to be poor people. That's the way it's going to work, because any business is going to have to split its profits, right? And so I don't really know what he's trying to say here, but this is not going to go over well, with his people, who is going to, going to get him a lot of backlash. And so we'll go ahead and check out some of these responses. So this person says, working 6 days a week for a corporation is not life, it's slavery. Working 6 days a week on your own business, that's the stuff. And so I think some of these people are also going to potentially be big on your own business. And so this guy, obviously, also I just want to say people aren't going to have the same values or work ethic or whatever, and that's fine. And so this guy seems to be obsessed with work and money. It's not a value or virtue to have. I think you should just, I don't think that productivity should be the number one value that we ascribe to humans and society. So I don't think that the main value human beings should be given is how much you can produce. There needs to be some kind of balance of, you shouldn't live to work, you should, you should work to live. And I think in other social democracies, France and just anywhere else other than America, any of the developed world, they have the motto of, we work to live. We don't live to work. In the US, it's very unique in that you live to work. And I think it's a really unhealthy, bad, lacking value, dangerous, harmful thing. And I think it's also contributing to all of the social issues that we're seeing where people are really struggling on the social level. This person says, hope Pat reads the comments. You can see how disconnected he is from his audience. I've worked my ass off coming in on Saturdays, working 20 hours overtime, minimum weekly, only to be passed up for a promotion by somebody who's buddy with the hiring manager. That's also true. I think I read a stat that said 86% of jobs are gotten from connections, not from actual merit. I've also seen a study say that about 60% of wealth in our country is actually inherited, so nobody actually worked for it. So I don't really see how that's meritable or capitalism. And another thing that I wanted to say also is that this idea of hours equaling productivity is actually that was a Soviet Union idea. That's actually why the Soviet Union really fell under in terms of becoming so economically inefficient, was because, just because you work a certain amount of hours doesn't equal productivity. That's not how it works. Basic, economics of marginal productivity of labor. And so they're kind of betraying their own kind of capitalism here. And they do that all the time in terms of inheriting wealth and things like that too. But this is not a capitalist thing. The capitalist thing is a 4-day work week because it's the most efficient, right? It results, whatever the facts say results in the most wealth and productivity. That's what you go with. But these guys want to go on fifis, and these are supposed to be the guys who are facts over the feelings or whatever, but it's none of that whatsoever. He said, I don't volunteer for weekends anymore. I spend more time with my family and I feel so much better, less stressed, happier, and content. Not everyone wants to be a business owner, a real estate mogul, or in your case, an insurance mogul. Yeah, nobody, a lot of people just don't want to be this. Some people are forced into thinking that they want this, but that's just not a desirable thing for most people. 4-day work is the promise of automation. When I started to work, I spent years updating factories. What guys like y'all do, 300 to 1,000% more salary, bought private planes, blah, blah, blah. Laid off the workers are supposed to be retrained, sent the rest of the jobs to China, India, lowered salaries and increased hours. Should I go on? I know I lost my son in 2021 and I worked far too much when he was here, and now I regret that. So let me tell you what means the most in life, and it's your family and friends. And that becomes another issue too, because conservatives are supposed to be all about family values. But how are you supposed to have family values if you're working 90 hours a week and you can never see your wife or kids or anybody? You know what I mean? There has to be a healthy work-life balance. And really, social relationships and enjoying life should take precedence over productivity in any sort of reasonable society. But I think the United States has really, because it can't be this can't be a fundamental U.S. value, because we literally see, there's also another weird myth that we have. Look, I just showed you the graph where it said the wealth increases were basically shared. They were shared for 35, 40 years basically. So it's dude, that's the golden era, considered the golden era of the United States. And so there's not some kind of thing where it's oh, that's just the way the U.S. is. No, it's not, right? And even if it was, that would be a fallacy from tradition, right? An argument from tradition fallacy. As someone who's worked 6-7 days a week for months at a time, the damage to your health and lack of pay is not worth it. Fight for better standards. Pat, not everyone's obsessed with you, money like you. I don't need to be a millionaire. I like to have a simple life and spend the most time possible with my wife, kids, and friends. I'd be very happy with a 4-day work week. I swear Americans, their obsession with money is out of control. By the way, Pat, taking your kids to the office, not spending time with them, because you're not paying your whole attention to them. And so working hard is absolutely how you get to the next level. What they're overlooking is working for someone else will never make you rich. Those stories of line level employees that got stock options are rare. And so, so he's just going to present like random facts that he tries to convince you are supporting his argument, but none of them are. And his arguments aren't even really clear as to what he's doing. The guy who works 6 days a week is going to look back and wish they enjoyed life more. You need to work hard, but enjoy life. Also, I love my job's work and something I dread. Another problem that I just kind of thought of is like this a big issue in terms of equating hard work with money. Like, I'm in university right now, double majoring and minoring, and hopefully going to go for a PhD. And so I'm working really, really hard, but I don't view it as like a money thing. It's not a money thing. In fact, there's not going to be that much money in it at all, right? But it's like, it's not a money thing. And so this idea that working hard has to be inextricably linked to money also I find to be a very depraved, disgusting, and shitty value that Americans hold that we need to get away from. There's a lot of value in hard work in terms of doing research, academics, building things, like, spending time with your family, all kinds of stuff. And it's like this kind of very depraved, disgusting culture that I don't know where it came from. Not 100% sure where it came from, honestly, because we just saw that for like 30, 40 years, the wealth increases were being shared. And so there's a bunch more of these comments, but basically this will never be popular with the general population. And it's just fake news. Like everything he's saying is just a bunch of bogus. The studies say workers are more productive when you have a 4-day work week. What are we talking about here? This should be celebrated. And honestly, you can have a sort of good result from automation, because you can kind of have people being freed from sort of shackle work, essentially, right? So it can be a really big benefit. But yeah, this guy's a clown for sure. And we have this like depraved ideology that money is everything, and this weird like jerk off obsession of working hard. We shouldn't live to work. We should work to live. And I think every other nation in the developed world agrees, but it's just the US is like especially stupid for some reason. And like I said, I'll just keep citing that chart, dude. For 40 years, the wealth increases were basically the same regardless of where you were in the rankings, right? And so I just don't know what's going on here, but yeah, this is hilarious.